What's going on, everybody? This is Jacob Shoup. You're watching the Tom O'Brien Show. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. Another down day in the market. Quite a fake out. Of course, you had to dump it open. You had some nice movement to the upside, but on no volume. Looked substantially weak. Looking at MP Materials now. This is an equity I'm looking to get into for a longer term. Again, I think kind of I think the market's going to get labored here for a while. I'm personally concerned we're going to go into some sort of kind of weird quasi-stagflation. You know, inflation continuing to tick up. You know, your unemployment isn't necessarily high, but there's no... People aren't getting jobs. People aren't leaving their jobs, right? I mean, this doesn't bode well for wage competitiveness. I think, you get wage increase, but it's kind of contracting a little bit. And, I feel you get to a point where it kind of stalls out and inflation continues on. And I mean, I've said this before, recessions are bad, inflation is bad, but, stagflation, and I'm sure a lot of you guys listening have probably went through that, or at least were, conscious in the late 70s, early 80s. And it's not a good thing, at least from my academic understanding of it. Of course, I wasn't alive then, but, I think there's some freaky stuff going on. So I'm looking at things that can kind of still operate and will, float out, essentially. Let me share my charts here in the den. MP Materials is one that I'm very interested in. Of course, it looks funky right now. You have negative PE, market cap 3.8 billion. Why am I looking at MP Materials? Because they're the only miner of rare earth materials in the U.S., and I mean, we're getting somewhat, I don't want to say protectionist because I don't think it's that necessarily, but I think COVID kind of taught everyone that having global supply chains with no, local or domestic backup is not a super wise thing to do. It works when everything's going well, but, we don't live in a permanent Pax Americana. Of course, you had Russia invade Ukraine, you have China with its own international aspirations, right? So, MP Materials is interesting. I think that will be important and necessary, regardless of what occurs. It's going to need to happen. I mean, seriously, looking really at like Amazon almost, because I don't think that this is just like a dip that we're going to buy. Right. I mean, there are some serious repricings going on here. Certainly, there are some things I'm sure that are getting mispriced to the downside. I mean, HIMS, I believe, was one of those. I do believe to a certain extent TTD is that as well. This has gotten no love whatsoever. And I think they have, a different kind of approach than App did. And App was, presenting like it was eating its lunch. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. But that's when I feel maybe a little less strong on. MP is definitely interesting to me. Euro defense stocks, I mean, we were looking at yesterday, Rolls-Royce. These guys knocked it out of the park. That new CEO, and he's killing it. You're up 14.34% today. You're looking at other things that kind of sustain, national resource development. Looking at Aris Water Solutions is one we were speaking about, a little while ago. It had a nice 22.3% move to the upside. These guys do water solutions in the Permian Basin, right? I think you're a little high right now. But yeah, I think this is probably pretty accurately priced as it is currently. We'll see if there's better developments out there and if there's room to get into Aris. But I think as it stands now, pretty accurately priced. I mean, what else? This is really tough, I think. Amazon is looking good. I'm thinking, what can AI be quickly applied to, right? I mean, data centers are still going to get built. Meta, what do they do? They're in talks to raise $35 billion for data center financing, led by Apollo, okay? Alternative, let's see here. Spelled out its investment plans as much as $65 billion on projects related to artificial intelligence this year. Estimated need for hundreds of billions of dollars to build out the infrastructure needed to power AI demand. This is going to continue to go. I think that TD Cowen report was kind of a little... It was spooky intentionally, I feel like, right? Not that I'm saying that's what... This market was already kind of unstable a little bit, right? And any moment you pump the brakes, the thing was going to fall apart, right? These things need to come back down. I mean, I look at Tesla. You know, this is one, I know, you know, we have some younger guys listening out there, and, you know, us young guys, we are taking higher risks in the market than recorded before. This is not one of those things where we go back up to where you bought at the top. I know that had happened a little bit, but this was a strong top pattern. You had abysmal earnings. It's not going to improve for Tesla internationally, at least in the near term, right? I know there's an expansion into India. India lowers its tariffs on EVs. Okay, that might be an argument to say, hey, maybe it won't be as bad, but it's going to be labored in Europe. China is going to dominate them in other markets. I mean, BYD, I'm bullish on. You know, it's a serious kind of problem for Tesla. If this continues to close and it closes in a strong way to the downside, I mean, the next move you're going to get is around that 250 breakout area. And then really what I think needs to happen is it comes back down to these September levels around 215. And I keep seeing a lot of stuff online like, Musk, focus on your stock. Guys, there was no reason for it to move like this. There really was not. I mean, he won, or Trump won, and he has some proximity to him. But Trump, you know, the EV market itself, and really Tesla to some certain extent, exists because of government kind of subsidies, right? And subsidizing EVs was antithetical to Trump's whole plan, right? I mean, so long story short, this isn't, I strongly believe this is not going to come back down. And again, we were talking about this thing like 380, right? Like, hey, this thing needs to go back down to pre-Trump levels, and it is moving down there, right? And so we'll see if we can continue that down movement. This is some pretty good volume to the downside. I think if we close in a strong way today, and if we're a little bit negative tomorrow on it, I mean, this thing goes back to September levels. I'm very bearish on Tesla. So let's see, I mean, what can we saddle AI with? Of course, NVIDIA came out with numbers. They were fine. There's still a high demand for it, but I think that's another thing that's priced very well right now. You know, what's the point of pushing NVIDIA up even further to, you know, say, you know, 3.3 trillion? There's not really a reason right now. Folks, if you stay right there, we're gonna be right back with Tim Ord. Tim Ord, his levels are getting hit right now in the spine. So stay right there. We're looking forward to hearing what he has to say.